Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube, and this week we're taking a moment to break down that negative blade angle is not the enemy in your paddle stroke. It is one of the most common coaching cues that you are going to hear somewhere on your paddling journey, that going negative with your blade angle is going to limit your power, it is going to slow the boat, it is going to lift the boat up, it is going to push the boat down. All of these are cues that lead you to believe that negative blade angle is bad and will slow you down. Every single competent paddle stroke that has ever been taken has the paddle go from a positive blade angle to a negative blade. The paddle goes in positive, it is going to travel all the way back to negative before releasing from the water. True for kayak and surf ski and outrigger canoe and marathon canoe and prone paddling and stand-up paddleboard and kneeling sprint canoe and anything else that I didn't mention that is a forward paddle stroke in nature is going to go positive to negative. You can spend a little bit of time watching some footage of paddlers, and the cue that you're looking for is that the moment their top hand goes in front of their bottom hand, the paddle is negative. Unless in hyper-specific short burst moments in a canoe stroke, you may see paddlers get to a certain point in the stroke and try to release, but even as they release, that top hand is going to punch forward, that bottom hand is going to come towards them, that blade's still going to be in the water, and they are going to travel into a negative blade angle even for a moment. The trouble with this is the cue you're going to hear is that you should never, ever go into this region of the paddle stroke, but it is a part of your full paddle stroke, and every paddler that is competent on the planet does it. So where does this cue come from? So it is an attempt to get new paddlers to stop scooping water behind them, and in most team paddling dynamics, it's also an attempt to get them to paddle faster to stay in synchronization. When you're brand new to a team boat and you don't know what paddling is or what you're doing, when you go through, you're typically going to stay in the water too long and the crew is going to turn over in a more optimized, faster way, and it's easy for first timers to fall behind. If you tell them to not do this one thing, they will turn over quicker because they're spending less time in the water. Boom, problem solved. The problem with this is designed for ultra beginners. You're a first timer. This is something that you hear to correct an issue, but it's packaged in a way that makes you believe that it is a super high level elite idea. Now, when you hold on to this concept, there's a certain point where you're going to hit a dead end in your paddling progress as you hold on to this ideology. Not understanding how the paddle is going to function means that you are limited in powering this function, which means you are highly limited in moving a craft comparatively to someone who does. So looking at this again, when we go through, we go from positive to negative. The handle is going to travel forward and the blade is going to travel back towards you, right? This is a pretty simple understanding of the movement. We talked about in a previous video that even in rowing, they do this idea. They set up the oar behind them and they sweep all the way until the blade is in front of them. They go from a positive angle to a negative angle. They don't go from positive to neutral and take it out and try to go back and do this number. They allow that motion to complete itself all the way to the very end. And this is the same exact thing that we're trying to do on a different plane. We're doing it from in front of us to behind us, but the motion of going here is invaluable to a full paddle stroke. The first part is powering this, right? Knowing that the paddle is going to go from positive to negative allows us to move our body in a specific way to make sure that this occurs. If I try to fight this motion by keeping the paddle neutral, now my top hand does not do what I need it to do. So the only thing left that I can do is try to pull with my bottom arm to get the paddle back towards me. Or you can try and pull in this number, but you're going to be incredibly limited with your connection with the wall. In a large team boat, this motion can get hidden and you don't get spotlighted for how ineffective it is. And this is why time trials and single person boats are so important, because the moment you try to do that next to somebody that paddles in a more proper and traditional way, you are going to see an immediate difference in performance. And that's why these cues are able to kind of thrive and survive, is because they're hidden within a large group dynamic. Only when you shine a spotlight on the individual and how they're moving can you understand how ineffective it is. Knowing that the paddle, the top hand handle needs to go in this direction, this synergizes perfect with us using our rotational forces throughout a stroke. As I set up the stroke, my top shoulder goes back, my top hand is back, and this allows this handle to be closer to me to create more positive blade angle, but it also gives me more space here to push through the stroke. Every joint on my top hand side is going to now push forward, pushing this handle. And to synergize with that, as I turn my body towards the water, my bottom hand is naturally pulling the blade towards me. So now we have this synergy of the entire body doing a cohesive motion, engaging every muscle from your foot to your hand to power the paddle through a specific path. If we don't power it that specific way, now as I go through some of these motions, it means that my body isn't helping as much as it could, and my tool's not helping me as much as it could with its leverage potential. So understanding this concept now opens the door up for you to rotate. If you are barred to paddling in this way, you can never truly rotate because there's no room for any of that to occur. The same idea with a kayak. Every competent kayak stroke that's ever been occurred, the top hand ends up further forward than the bottom hand, right? So the paddle is naturally going to go negative. Do I want to stay back here so long that I scoop water? That's the thing that we're trying to avoid. But if you're not an ultra beginner novice, you probably stopped doing that a long time ago. So now what we can focus on is the follow through. If I try to exit soon, there is an inherent deceleration that occurs as you reach whatever exit point that you're at. So if I enter and exit here, my power phase is only a small percentage of this occurring. But if I extend out and go to a negative blade angle, my time in the water is much longer, and now my power phase is much longer. You want to think about this negative angle being like your follow through on a punch or a throw. If I go all the way to here, now I'm starting to decelerate somewhere back here as I exit the water, and that's fine. That's what the negative blade angle is for, is to release your pressure to allow the blade to exit in a more graceful way. Now you get the benefit of this really long power phase that is going to move the boat more competently. So exiting sooner is always going to bar you from allowing your body's motion to really showcase itself. No matter what it is, every athlete that's moving a craft at a competent level, they always line up and follow through with their motion. Don't let the conceptual idea that the follow through is useless when you look at it by itself take away for how synergizing it is with the rest of every component of your stroke and the components of how your anatomy works. Thank you all so much for checking out the video. I've been spending a lot more time going over some of these concepts that don't really work in a solo boat scenario. And the reason for that is people that reach out, they are held up by older coaching cues that their muscle memory has a death grip on, and they're not able to relinquish some of these things without understanding the process and constantly going through it. And honestly, it's kind of a bummer to see people spend so much time and effort into the sport and be so close to a competent, powerful stroke, but they're held up by an ideology that has no bearing. There is no top tier racer that does what is being described, and so we shouldn't follow an ideology that we can't look at and try to mimic. Positive to negative, there are thousands of references, and if you want some, feel free to email me and tell me the name of the athlete that you think doesn't do it, and I'll show you a photo of them doing it over and over and over again. And if the paddler does the thing that we're trying not to do, they don't go that fast. And that's just the bottom line. If you need more in-depth ideas to make sure that you're breaking free from old muscle memory that's holding up your paddle stroke, check out the K2NOnlinePaddleSchool.com today. We have over 300 videos, and you can work directly with a coach to make sure that you're making progress forward. I can put you on a training routine. We can look at your techniques with video review, working remotely from anywhere in the world to make sure that you're progressing forward. If you need built-in accountability to make sure that you're sticking to this plan, if you are trying to work around injury, working with a coach is invaluable in making sure you progress forward. A big shout out to our YouTube members, and their name is going to appear here. This video came out almost 3 weeks early, so if you are a YouTube member, you got to see this information much earlier than the normal schedule. It is $2.99 a month to subscribe and to see all of these videos a little bit early. It is a small fee, but it goes a long way in showing support for this YouTube channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see all these paddle tip and vlog episodes as they show up. Thank you all again. We'll see you next week for another paddle tip video.